Stop. Look around you. The life you secretly believe is out of reach. The respect, the authority, the freedom someone else is living it right now. They walk into a room and the energy shifts. They build empires while you're scrolling at 2 a.m., feeling that familiar, burning ache in your chest. That voice whispering, "When is it finally going to be my turn?" The brutal truth, you've been lied to, not just by the world, but by the person you see in the mirror. You've been playing a rigged game, but here's the shocker. The rules aren't rigged against you. You just never learned the real rules of power, influence, and success. I used to ask that same question. I watched people less capable than me climb higher, faster. I was the one always justifying my value, proving my worth to people who wouldn't recognize genuine talent if it hit them. That is reintroducing. That's the white-hot fury of realizing you've been following a nice, neat set of instructions designed only to keep you in place, while you were being taught to be agreeable and wait your turn. The people winning were studying a different curriculum, the psychology of influence, how unshakable confidence is built, and why asking for permission is the single greatest betrayal of your own potential. The reason you're not where you want to be isn't a lack of talent, it's a lack of strategy. The people you see commanding their lives aren't waiting for validation from others. They stopped asking for permission from people who will never give it because your success threatens their comfort. They are not victims of other people's insecurities. They are the architects of their own inevitable rise. That is what this is about. In the next few minutes, we're going to peel back the curtain on the 7 psychological principles that separate the untouchable few from everyone else. This isn't feel-good motivation. This is surgical precision into the core mechanics of human interaction. You won't just think differently. You will move differently, speak differently, and fundamentally exist differently in every space you enter. I want you to make a choice right now. Don't just watch this, own it. The power of absolute silence. I learned this hard lesson young, sitting in a meeting with people who earned my yearly salary in a single month. I was desperate to prove I belonged, so I filled every pause with nervous chatter, desperate wit, and unnecessary explanations. I thought being valuable meant being loud. I was completely, embarrassingly wrong. The most powerful person in that room said maybe 10 words, but when they spoke, everyone leaned in. When they remained silent, others nervously filled the void, revealing too much of their hand, slowly dissecting themselves with their own volume. Every explanation you offer is a weakness you advertise. Every time you fill an uncomfortable silence, you're signaling that their comfort matters more than your authority. Silence is terrifying to people because it forces them to confront what they're truly thinking. When you stop rushing to fill the void, people begin projecting their fears onto your quiet confidence. They assume you're evaluating them, seeing through their masks. And here's the devastating part: you are. While they're talking, They're showing you their pressure points and insecurities. But when you're always talking, you are the one being dissected. Machiavelli said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." Your silence creates a canvas where people paint a version of your power with their own anxieties. You instantly become the person everyone is trying to impress, not the one desperately seeking approval. Silence is not the absence of sound. It's the undeniable presence of power. Emotions are data, not identity. A few years ago, someone I trusted completely betrayed me. They took private struggles and used them as public ammunition to humiliate me. My first primal instinct was to explode, to scream the truth, defend myself, and make them feel a fraction of the betrayal. But a tiny internal shift stopped me. I sat there in complete silence while my world burned, and I learned the most critical lesson for power. Your emotions are not your identity. They are temporary chemical reactions, data points you observe, analyze, and then choose how to act on. That moment didn't break me. It revealed something more potent than revenge. The ability to remain completely calm while someone else loses control. Emotional untouchability means that when someone tries to provoke you, you don't react. You collect data. When they betray you, you don't collapse. You take notes. When they try to manipulate your emotions, you don't give them the satisfaction of success. You give them the discomfort of total failure. This isn't about becoming a robot. It's about understanding that your emotional reactions are a choice, not a reflex. The person who stays calm during chaos is the one everyone else looks to for stability. Machiavelli advised it's safer to be feared than loved. But this isn't about aggression. It's about earning respect because people realize you cannot be emotionally manipulated or predicted. When you master your emotional responses, you see other people's emotional reactions as information about them, not a verdict about you. Control information like state secrets. I used to believe transparency was strength. I shared my fears, my struggles, and my grand plans with anyone who offered a casual ear. I mistook oversharing for connection. I was wrong. Every piece of personal information I gave away became ammunition used against me. My struggles became evidence of weakness. My dreams became punchlines. Information is the real currency of power. Not money, not connections. Information. Who has it, who needs it, and who controls the flow. While you were taught that sharing is caring, the powerful were learning that knowledge is leverage. Every conversation you have is an intelligence gathering operation. You are either collecting classified intelligence or accidentally giving away state secrets. I began treating my personal life like a classified government document, not because I had secrets, but because mystery creates respect and scarcity creates value. The less people know about your internal process, the more they have to respect your external results. Watch the most successful people you know. You know almost nothing about their private struggles, their detailed plans, or their emotional state. That is not accidental. While you are being selective about what you share, you must be systematic about what you gather. Pay attention to what people tell you when they think you're not paying attention. Listen to their weaknesses while they complain about their problems and their strategies while they brag about their success. This is not manipulation. This is acute awareness. When you understand people's motivations and pressure points, you can create value for them in ways that serve your goals. 2. When you control information, you control your options. When you control your options, you control the outcome. Never again be surprised by someone else's move, because you will have seen it coming long before they made it. Make yourself irreplaceable through ruthless competence for years. I was the agreeable, accommodating, nice guy at every job. I thought security came from being liked. I watched someone half as nice, but twice as competent, get promoted over me again and again. Here is the brutal truth. Nice doesn't make you necessary. Being easy to work with guarantees nothing except being easy to replace. You know what makes you necessary. Being so undeniably good at what you do that replacing you would cost more time, money, and risk than keeping you and paying you exactly what you're worth. Even when you demand respect and set non-negotiable boundaries, I had to admit I was using likability as a cheap substitute for competence. I was hoping being pleasant would compensate for being ordinary. Competence is your insurance policy against other people's moods, preferences, and changing loyalties. When you are irreplaceably good, people have to deal with you as you are. They may not like your directness, but they need your results more than they need their comfort. Building this competence means you don't just meet expectations. You anticipate needs your boss doesn't even know they have yet. You don't just solve problems. You prevent crises. Machiavelli noted the peril of introducing new orders, which is exactly why most people avoid becoming irreplaceable. It requires the courage to challenge systems and risk being wrong in exchange for the possibility of being spectacularly right. When you commit to this level, people stop questioning your methods and start studying them. They stop trying to manage you and start fighting to keep you. Your value becomes so obvious that arguing with you is counterproductive. I did this by becoming obsessed with being the most valuable, not the most available. I made myself the person who made everything function better, smoother, and more profitably. You stop worrying about job security and start choosing between opportunities. You stop asking for raises and start negotiating partnerships. Competence is not something you fake. It's something you earn through undeniable evidence of your worth. Build it ruthlessly, and everything else becomes negotiable. Never explain to people committed to misunderstanding 5 years ago. I made a life-altering decision. I left a stable job that everyone thought I was crazy to leave. The reaction was swift and brutal. Friends and family predicted failure. I spent months trying to explain my detailed, strategic, and calculated plan. I presented market research and financial projections. Nothing mattered. They had already decided who I was and what I was capable of based on their own fears, their need to feel superior, and their investment in keeping me in a comfortable, predictable box. These people weren't confused about my potential. They were threatened by it. This is the most liberating truth you will ever learn. There are people committed to a version of you because changing their mind would require them to change their entire worldview. They need you to fail because your success removes their excuse for mediocrity. You cannot logic someone out of a position they didn't logic themselves into. You cannot convince someone to respect you when their entire identity depends on feeling superior to you. Machiavelli reminds us that everyone sees what you appear to be. The people who are committed to misunderstanding you are only interested in maintaining their comfortable illusion. When you stop trying to explain yourself to people who aren't genuinely trying to understand, you free up massive amounts of mental and emotional energy. You can redirect that energy toward relationships that recognize your worth instinctively, work that speaks for itself, and skills that make their opinions completely irrelevant. The people who love you won't need lengthy explanations. They will trust your judgment. This doesn't mean you ignore all feedback, but you become ruthlessly selective about whose opinions are worth pursuing. Your worth does not decrease based on someone else's inability to see it. Some people need you to be small so they can feel big. Don't give them what they need. Build systems, not dependencies. Used to think freedom was a feeling, that rush of escaping all your constraints. I confused freedom with chaos. Real freedom is not the absence of structure. It is the presence of structures that serve your goals, not other people's agendas. It is building systems that generate results whether other people participate, approve, or recognize them. Most people build their lives around other people's schedules, decisions, and moods. Their happiness depends on a partner's validation. Their income depends on an employer's budget. Their self-worth depends on external praise. They've created elaborate networks of dependency and called it connection. This is voluntary imprisonment with better marketing. When your financial security and emotional stability all depend on other people's consistency, you're not living your life. You're borrowing it from people who can revoke your access at any moment. The single greatest gift in my life was the moment every single system collapsed simultaneously. Job, relationship security forcing me to ask, what would my life look like if it didn't depend on anyone else's consistency or approval? Everyone wants independence, but nobody wants to pay the price of building it. Temporary discomfort, delayed gratification, and the discipline to build something sustainable. Building systems requires thinking in longer time horizons. It means creating multiple streams of income instead of depending on one paycheck. It means developing skills that travel with you instead of depending on one company's training. It means building your own validation systems instead of depending on other people's praise. This is not selfishness. This is strategic thinking. This is not isolation. This is independence. Systems create options. Options create power. Power creates freedom. When you have systems, you don't need to tolerate disrespect or compromise your values for security. You can walk away from situations that don't serve you because you've built alternatives that do. Dependencies make you negotiable. Systems make you sovereign. Embrace strategic ruthlessness. This is where we separate the people who want to feel powerful from the people who are powerful. 3 years ago, I had to cut my best friend out of my life. We had grown up together, but our paths had severely diverged. I was building. They were complaining and draining. Every conversation became an energy siphon, and I confused loyalty with enabling. I confused kindness with stupidity. The wake-up call was realizing that every hour I spent supporting their mediocrity was an hour I couldn't invest in my own goals. Every emotional resource wasted on their chaos was a resource I couldn't give to people who actually deserved it. Strategic ruthlessness is not cruelty. It's the willingness to prioritize your goals over other people's comfort, your growth over their expectations, your truth over their comfortable illusion of what you should be. It is saying no to people you care about when their request doesn't align with where you're going. It's ending relationships that are a drain, even if the person isn't bad. They're just not your people anymore. It's making decisions that disappoint people who are counting on you to stay small, safe, and predictable. Machiavelli noted that sometimes you have to be stingy with your resources, time, energy, attention to have enough left over for the things and people that truly matter. Most people avoid this because they confuse ruthlessness with meanness. But that's poor impulse control. Real strategic ruthlessness is calculated, purposeful, and often kind in its long-term effects. Sometimes the most ruthless thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's weakness. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is disappoint someone in the short term to force them to build the strength they'll never develop while you're carrying them. The people who achieve extraordinary things are not necessarily more talented. They are more willing to make decisions that other people aren't willing to make. Strategic ruthlessness is what transforms you from someone who reacts to life into someone who designs it. That untouchable truth. Listen carefully. You are not broken. You are not behind, too old, or too damaged to become exactly who you are meant to be. You have simply been systematically programmed to believe that your natural desire for respect, success, and power is selfish or unrealistic. You've been convinced that setting boundaries makes you difficult, and prioritizing your goals makes you ungrateful. These are psychological chains designed to keep you manageable, controllable, and predictable. You can remove them right now. Everything you've learned comes down to one fundamental understanding. You are not here to be liked. You are not here to be comfortable. You are not here to make everyone else feel good about themselves while you settle for less than what you are capable of creating. You are here to become unforgettable, not through drama, but through excellence. You become unforgettable by developing the psychological sovereignty that makes you untouchable.